afternoon. So with that introduction, let me get into managing narcotics in the ward. It's a very important topic and a lot of doubts are there regarding this. Just like the blood transfusion we took last week, narcotics is an important aspect of management which the nurses do. And there are plenty of doubts regarding this particular aspect. So we thought we will do a webinar on this topic. So opioids are safe and effective for pain management. We all know that. But at the same time, it is prone for misuse. So that is the reason it is very tightly regulated. And on the other hand, hospitals need to use these freely to make sure that these painkillers reach the patients without much of a delay. And our government has done several amendments to this act. It is called the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act to facilitate the safe use of narcotics in hospitals. And it requires that hospitals and doctors and the nurses follow certain prerequisites and follow certain responsibilities so that it can be safely used and it prevents its misuse also. So, if you have not had an experience of misuse, I can share my experience where we had, actually one doctor who was working in the emergency who was misusing it for almost 6 months. We didn't find out till a very, I think, observant pharmacist saw that, there was excess of prescription from one particular doctor and alerted us. So this happens. So we need to be very, very careful about this. So the objective of the NDPS Act is to regulate the production, possession, sale, purchase and transport of narcotic and psychotropic drugs. And it's regulated by strict record keeping and reporting requirements at the pharmacy level and also at the hospital level. So as I said, the aim is to prevent misuse and illegal distribution and prevent abuse of these drugs. So the latest amendment of this act was in 2021. And these are the drugs which come under the act. These are known as essential narcotic drugs. And an institution which is licensed to use these narcotics are known as registered medical institutions. So these are terms used in the act. That's why I'm repeating that with the abbreviations. So the ENDs or the essential narcotic drugs are morphine, fentanyl, methadone, oxycodone, codeine, and hydrocodone. And the pharmacist of this hospital is actually the one in charge of these drugs, and he needs to oversee the use of essential narcotic drugs along with the help of the doctors and nurses. Any lapse, that is a problem. The NDPS Act has got very strict punishments for misuse. And it will be actually heard in the criminal court, not in the civil court. So it's a criminal offense, and therefore we need to be very careful about this act. So the best practices we are going to see today are procurement, prescription, dispensing, storage, administration of narcotics, monitoring and documentation. Okay. And finally, maintaining the stocks. How do we maintain the stocks? So these are 7 aspects we're going to discuss today. So let's get into procurement. So the hospitals need to procure their narcotics from licensed suppliers. These are pharmacies, it can be wholesale or retail, who are licensed to dispense these narcotics, and you need to have a vendor relationship with these organizations to procure the narcotics. And the second aspect is you should have a narcotics license. The hospital should have a narcotics license. And these hospitals are designated, as I told you, as recognized medical institutions. And this designation is given by the state drug controller. So you need to apply to the state drug controller's office as an application form which is available. And the drug controller will come and inspect and verify and issue the license. And once the license is given, it needs to be renewed on a regular basis. So there are 2 options which you can use narcotics. One, the hospitals can obtain the license, allowing the pharmacy to store and use narcotics. That is, most of the hospitals will do that. But smaller hospitals can also do designate a registered medical practitioner who will be an MBBS doctor, who will be licensed to use narcotics. So these hospitals can then get the narcotics from external pharmacies who are licensed to dispense in the name of that particular doctor. But there is a restriction. At any point in time, if you're going to use like this, where you don't have a license, the act says this is the maximum amount of each drug you can have at along with the doctor. So here, no, actually you're buying it through the doctor, not through the hospital. So the morphine, is for 500 milligrams, codeine is 2000, oxycodone is 250, hydrocodone is 320, and fentanyl, 2 transdermal patches is what you can have at the maximum. So this will now actually suffice for smaller units. So this also can be done in terms of procurement. So once you have the narcotics, the next step is the prescription. So only qualified MBBS doctors are permitted to prescribe the narcotics. So the prescription has to be documented very clearly. First, you need to write the patient's name and address for privacy and patient confidentiality reasons. I'm not showing that. It will be above on top of this narcotic drug order. Then you have the tablet and whichever formulation it is, tablet, liquid, injection should be clearly marked. You can even print it and put a tick box if you want to enforce the doctors to write the formulation. Then write the dosage separately. It should be both in words and in letters. And the next is the strength of the preparation. So if your pethidine has 25 milligram per ml and the ampule has 50 milligram, 2 ml has 50 milligram. So the strength of the particular ampule or vial. So how does 1 ml, how much does 1 ml contain? That also should be entered in the form. And the total number of doses should be written both in words and figures. So here 1 amp is written only in figures, but you need to write in letters also, ONE here. And the doctor's details, the doctor's name, the qualification, registration number, and the signature should be there. The acknowledgement by the nurse that this prescription has been used to administer the narcotics should also be there. And finally, the latest amendment says that you need to get the signature from the patient also stating that they have received this narcotic. So this is the documentation which needs to be there in triplicate for each and every ampule which is dispensed. So the narcotic prescription should be complete. You should not leave any of those fields incomplete, legible. So it should be written in capital letters. It should be written in entirely in the doctor's handwriting. You can't ask someone else to write and then ask the doctor to sign. It should be written, and that's the reason we have to write it in capital letters, because you know about doctor's handwriting, right? And it is valid only for 24 hours. If it is after which the doctor has to write a fresh order. So this is the all being done to prevent the misuse of these narcotics. Now, once we have wards and we want to use the narcotics, the pharmacist will supply the narcotics to the unit, and it can be stored in the respective units for use. If it's a small hospital, you can just use have a narcotic cupboard in the pharmacy itself, and whenever necessary, you can go and get it from there. But if it's a large hospital, it makes sense to have narcotic cupboards in the various areas of the hospital, and the nurses will be in charge of these narcotic cupboards. So we'll come to the storage. Again, there is a lot of doubts regarding this, so let me clarify that. So it should be in the pharmacy, as I told, or it can be in every patient care area. That is your policy. You can decide how to do it. And it will contain predetermined number of narcotic ampoules. So you will, before itself, tell in the narcotic cupboard, there will be n number of pethidine, n number of morphine, and so on in your policy. And this should be followed to the line. Okay. And this has to be a separate cupboard. You can't store with other items, and it should be locked. And only narcotic drugs given in that list should be stored in this particular cupboard. Now, this is a question which is asked by most hospitals, and most assessors are also having this habit of checking where how many locks do you put, one lock or two locks. Actually, the NDPS Act does not mandate, specifically say you need two locks for narcotic storage. All they say is secure storage to prevent unauthorized access and misuse. It should be stored in a locked receptacle. That's what they tell. But over the years, what has happened is because of assessors' insistence, and mainly maybe because the hospitals want to be very careful, the double lock systems are in vogue. Nothing wrong with that, but it is not. Now we have to understand that it is not mandated. It just adds a layer of complexity to managing the narcotic cupboard, which is not necessary as per the Act. So, but if you're already following a double lock system very much in place and you're comfortable, please continue. No, don't change that. But more important than locks is managing the keys. So usually what will happen is the key will be hanging on the lock, or the same nurse will be having both the keys, which defeats the whole purpose. That's so no more important than putting one lock or two lock. That single key which you have, we should be very, very carefully regulated. So it is the responsibility of the charge nurse of every ward to be in charge of the keys, and there should be a mechanism of transfer of key during change of shifts. So suppose by mistake the narcotic key cupboard is taken home by the nurse and the nurse lives in a very far away area. What will you do? Okay. So will you have to break the cupboard? Do you have an alternate key with somebody else? All these things you have to think about and put it in your policy. So most of the policies will only have two locks. They'll never talk about what you do with the keys. So it's important to put this in your policy. So who's in charge will have the key, the charge nurse, and the staff will return the key as soon as possible. That is, when the shift is over, the staff who's handling the narcotic cupboard will return it back to the charge nurse. And they will have a duplicate key. You can designate a person, either a security person who is in charge of the keys in most hospitals, can also have a key which is again safely kept in a particular safe area. And if the nurse has by mistake taken the cupboard key home and you're not able to get it, then you can open the key with a duplicate key. And when you open it, you again have to check the number of narcotics when you open and double check and document it that a duplicate key has been used to open it. And as soon as possible, that nurse who took away the key should return it to the charge nurse. And if at all you don't have a duplicate key, then you have to break the narcotic cupboard, and then you have to change the lock, and then it's an incident. You have to sign an incident report, and you have to fill the relevant details in the pharmacy and a communication sheet. Okay, so you have to communicate to the pharmacy that because the key was lost, the lock was changed, and the documentation should be kept in the pharmacy. So much for key control, then lock control. So we have looked at procurement, prescription, storage, and now from the storage, the nurse will take the medication and administer the medicine to the patient. So the preparation has to be done at near the narcotic cupboard itself by the nurse, based on the prescription given by the doctor, and in the presence of the witness. When you take the drug, there has to be a witness, and the register has to be updated that you've taken one ampule. If at all you have not taken the full contents of that ampule or vial, you need to discard the medicine and place the empty ampule in the narcotic cupboard. So the registers and the key, as I said, has to be handed over at the end of each shift, and two registered nurses will do the counting and updating the register. Or it can be one nurse and another staff who you designate, usually be a doctor. So the registered nurse or physician will fill in the narcotic register, write in blue or black ink. Any corrections or deletions have to be made in red ink. And in case of revision, you just strike it with a single line. Do not put white marker or anything like that where it is totally hidden. That means you are suppressing some information. Whatever you delete also should be able to be read well, because you're just putting one line in a red ink. And the completed narcotic register should be sent to the pharmacy daily, or the pharmacist should come to the ward and check all the registers on a daily basis. So there are certain legal or statutory forms which need to be used. So you need to maintain the record for each patient. That's the one I showed you. That is known as Form 3E. Okay, and then another is the Form 3H, which record all receipts and disbursement of narcotic drugs preserved for a minimum of 2 years from the date of last entry. So this is the narcotic register. It should be on the stipulated format as per 3H. And then Form 3I is the pharmacy has to file a return for a whole year before the 31st of March to the controller of drugs, state controller. You got to submit this form. Okay, so the stock taking, how does it happen? This is the maintaining the stocks. So every time the nurse receives new drugs, narcotic drugs, you need to count the number of ampules in the presence of the pharmacist and write the information in the narcotic register. And they're utilized on the basis of the narcotics. And you maintain this running count received from the pharmacy, how much was administered and how much is remaining. And this should be tallied against the non-used ampules and the used ampules on a regular basis, maybe per shift or per day. Okay, and you have to store the empty ampule in the narcotic cupboard. So as the stock gets exhausted, then you should update the narcotic register, and then you again go to the pharmacy and refill your narcotic register. You can have a policy where you refill the narcotic cupboard when it reaches 1 or 2. Again, it depends on your policy. So you get the new stock from the pharmacy, cross-verify, the pharmacist has to cross-verify the count of empty ampules with that written in the register, and then he will release the new stock of narcotics to the nurse. Okay, so that's how it happens. What do you do if the narcotics are expired? You need to check for expiry drugs as in any other area near expiry drugs. You have to look at in the narcotic cupboard also. So you can say 1 month and then change the expired drug with one new one from the pharmacy. And this also should be documented in the narcotic register that you exchanged a new expiry drug for a new one from the pharmacy. So this is a serious problem where you have put in the register that the narcotics has taken from the cupboard, but in the medication chart, the dosage was not given. This could be just an oversight because you probably missed giving the drug and you discarded it without putting in the register, or it was some other problem. No, you will never know. So you have to know when you find the medication chart, this drug has not been given, then you inform the senior nurse and the pharmacy in charge. Then they will verify and account for the discrepancy. Yes, it was missed but not accounted for, and they will have to verify and countersign, fill an incident form, and do a root cause analysis for this, why this happened, and educate your nurses that the documentation has to be clear. So that's about missed doses. Okay. Accidental breakage. You took the ampule out and then you dropped it. So again, the same thing, incident report, hand over the broken ampule in a separate container after emptying all the contents, and update the incident in the narcotic record with witness. And as I already pointed out, the unused leftover. Suppose you've taken 1 ml of the drug, another 1 ml is remaining in the ampule. You flush it under running water in the sink in presence of the witness and document it in a narcotic register along with the witness signature. So much of processes have to be followed because this act is as I said is comes under the Criminal Act. So this is a major headache for pharmacies. Disposable of empty ampules. What will you do with this? Many times you will find at the one end of the pharmacy one big carton of empty narcotic ampules and vials lying there for years, waiting for the state controller to come and say something about it. So what do you do? flush the residual contents. No, none of the ampules should have any residual contents. Deface the labels. Again, when you wash it, remove the labels, because again, if there is a label, then people can misuse it. Just put water in it and misuse it. No, if it is a vial. Okay, so deface the labels. Segregate in puncture-proof containers or glass. No, white puncture-proof or blue puncture-proof, depending on whether it's broken or not, and you document it. So what is the narcotic type you put in the particular? So it can't be the general blue or white container. There should be a separate white container for narcotic cupboards, clearly labeled, and in that you have to have a document how much, no, from each ward, how much of empty vials you got, and what is a narcotic drug which came, is aspirin, morphine, etc., and the disposal method you used it, whether you crushed it and disposed it, or whatever you did, you according to your policy, you dispose it with a witness and document it in the register. The best thing is to comply with the pollution control guidelines of your state, and also before you write a policy on how to destroy the ampules, have a conversation with the state drug controller and tell him that this is what you do, get his approval. Maybe a written communication regarding this will be a safe thing to do. Then you don't need to keep the ampules and vials for years in the corner of the pharmacy. I think that brings us to the end of this webinar about use of narcotics in the ward. So we looked at procurement, has to be licensed pharmacy. You need to have license, or you can license a registered medical practitioner. Dispensing is done from the pharmacy and given to storage either centrally in the pharmacy or both. And you can also have storage areas in each and every ward. And administration is based on the prescription of the doctor, and there are several things to be followed when you administer the drug. And this has to be monitored and documented. Each and every ampule has to be documented for. And I also went through in detail about how to maintain the stocks, how to do a running balance. And there are several practices which you have to follow for unused drugs, broken ampules, missed doses, etc. Okay, there is a link which gives you clear details about the whole NDPS Act. I will give it along with the handout. I think that's all we have. Thank you, and we will meet next week. Thank you so much. Bye.